done got excited. I've got several old logs on the yard like this one, old pine logs. There's a couple here that's old. These are decent size, but they got a lot of knots in them. And old knotty pine just don't make good lumber. But I tell you what it does make. You saw the thumbnail. You know what we're doing. From the pith out, 4 inches. Don't let me down now. Well, there's 2 of them. Now we got 4 logs, 4 inches thick, but in actuality we have 8 logs because I'm gonna cut them half in 2, and this coop is going to be a 6 foot by 6 foot outside measurements. First thing I'm going to do is find center on each end and then pull a string through the middle where I can find out where my center line's at. I've got my string pulled tight center to center on each end, and I'll use that as my reference point. Also have my center mark. So I'm going to measure 6 foot that way and 6 foot that way and square the ends up. Here's my center line perpendicular with the center line of the log. That end's got a mark, that end's got a mark. I'm going to square them up, and I'm going to do that to every one of these, and I'll come back. Since all my logs are 4 inches thick, more or less, I'm going to come in 6 inches off of each end. That way my dovetail will hang off just a little bit. It'll give me 2 inches of overhang on each one of my half dovetail joints. All right, I got my first log marked. I got it clamped to the forks of the tractor. I'm going to take the chainsaw and whittle those out. I'm going to make one more of them and I'll be right back. My 2 foundation logs are set. I measured corner to corner, got everything squared up. Now we're ready for my favorite part. The nature of a half dovetail joint encourages water to run away from the joint, which is why they last 300 or 400 years. So right here, I'm going to hold my speed square at 25 degrees, and I'm just going to find me a happy spot somewhere right in there. Now use that same square to come off the end at 90 degrees to 6 inches. That'll do it. Now same thing on the inside. From the top of your mark, 6 inches. Repeat that on all 4 corners and then we'll be ready. And I typically put me a little cheat line on the top. That way when I come in from this way with the saw, I don't have to look over to see where I'm going. I got a reference right on top. All right, to the next step in the process. Now basically what I have to do is transfer this angle to up here. I'm going to be doing both sides at one time, but I'll just show you this side. I want this log to sit down 4 inches lower than it is currently. I'm just going to put a mark at 4 inches from the top, and then come to the bottom up, put another mark at 4 inches, and now connect the dots. That is my cut line, and that is my cut line. Now I want you to look how pretty of a notch that is. Believe it or not, we're not too bad out of square. All right, YouTube, here's the deal. This log is still sitting up on top of this one. The notch is not cut yet. Here's where we have to be careful. There's a distance, the gap right here. We have to take account of that when we cut the depth of our next notch. That way we can determine how wide our chink joint is going to be. This is the tightest area in this gap, and it is, I'm going to say that's 5 inches. I'm going to say 5 1/4. Now, if this gap is 5 1/4, what that means is we need to go no more than 3 1/4 up from here. If we go 3 1/4, cut the notch, set the log down, then we have a 2-inch chink joint gap, which is perfect. All right, friends and family and YouTube, is that 2 1/4? Look, I'd love to keep going, but the good Lord's finna turn the lights off. Y'all stick around, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss part 2.